You should really get a job. I don't wanna be like you, I wanna sing my songs and keep it going all night long.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of... Let me turn the fan off, it's kind of loud. Welcome back to another episode of DogeBag Poker Vlogs. As you guys can see, I'm in a different location now, and that's because in this episode, I go back to Vegas, which I haven't been back to in like 4-ish years or so. So I just finished up a session at one of the casinos here, and it's somewhere I've never been to before, so that was a lot of fun. This trip, I might do a mix of like going to brand new casinos and then also going to ones I've been to before and playing 5-5 because I didn't really play 5-5 too much back in the day. So I want to see what it's like in the casinos that I've already been to, but then at the same time I want to go to the other ones and get $1 chips for the collection. I'm a completionist, so I like doing that. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy the vlog. It's really good to be back in Vegas, and it's definitely a nice change of scenery from the California poker rooms.
Really get a job. I don't wanna be like you, I wanna sing my songs and keep it going all night long. I don't wanna stop. I don't wanna save my money, wanna blow it all. Whatever the hell I want. Getting old and never growing up. Up. Getting old and never growing up. I gotta get it off my chest. I don't know how anyone could ever live a life behind a desk. And I don't go to church no more, but I've been feeling blessed. Cause my taxi busy driving while I'm busy getting hella money. And it's kinda funny how the ones who did it right still kinda hate their lives. Cause you should really get a...
What's up, guys? I am outside of South Point right now, right outside of the heart of Vegas. Every time I go to Vegas, I always see this place, and I never actually end up going there, but I always told myself that one day I would play here so I could get the $1 chip for my collection, and today's that day. So hopefully we could have a good session. The poker games they offer are 1-2 with a 300 max buy-in, 2-3 with a 600 max, and 3-5 with a $1,500 max. So I'm gonna be playing the 3-5 today. We'll just see how the game is. There's always 2-3 if I want to go back down to that. So this is gonna be my first session of the poker trip. Wish me luck.
Really get a job. I don't wanna be like you, I wanna sing my songs and keep it going all night long. I don't wanna stop. I don't wanna save my money, wanna blow it all. Whatever the hell I want. Getting old and never growing up.
Brand new 3-5 no limit game, table 17.
After waiting a while, I finally get a seat in the new 3-5 game, which is a must move. I buy in for the max, which is 1,500. In the first interesting hand we play, I have ace-queen offsuit in the small blind. An early position player raises to $20 and the hijack calls. Since I'm in the small blind, I'm going to be more incentivized to 3-bet since I'm out of position and I want to hopefully take down the pot right here. So I put out a 3-bet of $85 and both of my opponents make the call. 3 ways to a flop, which is king, ace, 5, rainbow. We have top pair, best kicker. I put out a c-bet of 120 here and only the initial raiser calls. So we're going to a turn card, which is a 9 of spades, putting a second spade on the board. I think I should have barreled on this card in hindsight, but at the time I decided to check. I honestly don't remember exactly what I was thinking since I'm recording this after the trip, but I imagine I was just checking for deception. But I think there's just a standard spot where I should go for value. No draws have been completed. There weren't many draws to begin with, and this card is unlikely to have improved his hand, so we want to charge backdoor flush draws and also just get value in general, since this is one of the better hands I'm going to have in this spot. Also, I'm going to be barreling when I don't really have hands in this spot too, since the board just favors my range a ton, so I think I should have just bet. No need to do anything fancy or get tricky. But as played, we're going to a river, heads up still. The river is the 8 of hearts, so pretty safe card once again. I don't imagine this should have really hit his range. And this time, obviously going to go for some value since my hand is so under-repped, with me only c-betting on ace-king 5. I put out a bet of 175, and my opponent calls pretty quickly, and I roll over my hand and win. I think this is a hand that wasn't super interesting, but it is one where I feel like I should have gotten a lot more value, especially with how quickly he called. Also, like I said, my hand is pretty under-repped, given that I only bet the flop. and there's no reason for me to just bet 175 on the river when the pot's about 500. I could go really big here actually and make it look like I'm bluffing, or I could just put out a decent sized bet of like 350 or more. So lost some value here, but hopefully we can play better in later hands. In this next hand, I get dealt pocket sevens in the cutoff. We're only playing 6-handed at this point, and the low jack opens to 20. I just make the call, and the small blind comes along as well. So 3 ways to a flop, which is a really good one. It's 3-5-7 rainbow. We flop top set here, and we effectively have the nuts. It's very unlikely anyone has 6-4, but then again, you never know. The small blind checks, and the low jack puts out a C bet that's pretty big. He bets 75 into 65, and on this board, I'm pretty much never going to be raising. I decide to just call. The small blind folds, and we're going to a turn card heads up, which is the ace of spades. This is actually a really good card since it's more likely to hit his range and could have improved his hand, which means we can potentially get more value. We do get more value since the low jack bets $200 this time, pretty much a pot size bet. I make the call once again. There's no need to raise since his opponent's probably going to keep barreling. Also, one thing I should mention is that this opponent has been caught bluffing multiple times in this session already, and this was still pretty early on. I had seen him get to the river twice and have to show the bluff after getting called. So this player is definitely really aggressive and willing to make moves. The river card is the king of clubs. Again, a pretty good card since he's very likely to have improved here, or if he has nothing, he might just see this as a good card for him and continue barreling. This time though, he actually decides to check it over to me, so obviously I'm going to have to bet here for value. The question is what size. Once again, in classic DogeBag fashion, I misread his stack. I think I thought he had like 800 or something behind. When I do bet 175 and he raises to 450, this is where it actually causes me to make a big mistake. You guys have seen me play sets really badly before. In the most recent vlog, I played too aggressively with my set and caused myself to lose value against another player. And in the vlog before that, I played a set like a complete nit. So like I said, I misread his stack and I actually thought he had about 800 behind when really he had a few hundred less. Regardless of that, I should be shoving anyways since I'm always getting value from ace king or worse sets. I should be raising here for value, and if he just happens to have aces or kings, then that's fine, but I always, for some reason, try to find a way that I could be beat. So after thinking about it for a while, I decided not to 3-bet on the river since I just figured if he has a bluff, he's just going to fold anyways, and I wish I could go back and raise so I don't have to show myself playing this hand badly. But after thinking for a while, I actually say out loud that, okay, I just call, and he kind of shakes his head to kind of indicate that my hand's good. I show that I have the set of sevens. The table's probably pretty surprised by that, and fortunately, probably got max value regardless, just given that he probably had a bluff. But we're going to move on to the next hand. Hopefully, I don't play like a nit. Alright guys, in the last vlog when I had pocket nines and flopped a set and played it badly, I immediately got aces right after. It's the same in this case. We get dealt pocket aces pretty soon after that previous hand. We're once again 6-handed, and there's only one big blind this hand since I think someone left the table or was sitting out or something. I'm in under the gun / the low jack, and I open it to $20. The cutoff makes the call, and the button actually decides to 3-bet to $85. Action folds back to me, and I put out a 4-bet to $200, and only the 3-better makes the call, so we're headed to a flop heads up, which is king queen 6 with 2 hearts. Not the best flop since my opponent did call my 4-bet, but I'm still pretty comfortable with aces, so I decide to put out a smallish c-bet here of 110. The button now decides to raise once again, and he makes it 305. Kind of a weird spot since my opponent could definitely have me beat, but I think it's way too weak to fold here, and I don't think raising really accomplishes much. I also thought I had the ace of hearts. It's not a huge detail, but I did kind of value having the backdoor flush draw potential here, so I do make the call. We were about 900 effective on the flop, so now we're playing about 600 effective, and the pot's around 1k at this point. The turn is a 10 of spades, so we are going to have kind of a tough decision if my opponent decides to shove here. I check it over to him, and luckily he checks back. The river's a blank. It's the deuce of diamonds, and I'm just hoping to get to showdown here. I don't think there's a reason to bet, so I check it to my opponent once again. He checks back, so we're actually probably good here. I show my hand, and he ends up mucking, so luckily we win this hand. But if he were to bet on the turn or the river, then not sure what I would have done since this board is just kind of scary facing a raise on the flop. In the next hand, we're still 6-handed, and I have 8-7 of spades on the button. Pretty nice hand to have in position. Once action folds to me, I raise it up to $20. The small blind wants to play for more. He makes it $65. And now action's on the big blind, and he just calls the 3-bet. I'm in position with the suited connector, and the big blind is playing about $1,000 effective. So I decide I'm going to call here since the big blind's playing so deep. The flop is pretty good. It's 6-3-5 with 2 clubs. We don't have a flush draw, but we do have an open-ended straight draw. And the small blind decides to put out a c-bet here of 125, just about 2/3 pot. Unfortunately, the big blind folds, and he was the main reason I wanted to get involved in this hand. Action is now on me, and the small blind only has about 435 left. And we do have a pretty good candidate to bluff here. This board shouldn't be good for the small blind's range. Obviously, he's going to call off with overpairs, but if he's 3-betting with just 2 overs, I feel like he's going to have to fold here. So having pretty good equity and potentially good fold equity, I feel like the move is to just shove here. So I put him all in for 435. Unfortunately, he makes the call, so we are looking for some help on the turn and river.
Alright.
You're ahead right now.
I have 8-7.
8-7? Yeah, you're good. Oh, you got a queen now. Nice hand. The turn is the queen of clubs, completing the flush draw. Not a great card. And the river is the deuce of spades. I turn over my hand, and my opponent ends up having ace-queen offsuit. So he actually made a really good call on the flop. He put me on nothing, and unfortunately, we're going to lose this one. So kudos to my opponent for making a good call on the flop.
Nice hand.
Okay, 4-3. Let me have a card.
He called with 8 high, I think he might be.
After this hand, I get moved from the must-move table to the main game, and in one of the first hands I play at this table, I get dealt 10-9 offsuit on the button. The cutoff raises to $20. I decide to call here, and the blinds come along as well. So we're going to a flop 4 ways, which is pretty good. It's 8-10 deuce with 2 clubs. I have top pair here, and I have a club in my hand. The blinds check, and the pre-flop raiser also checks. Gonna go for some value here, and it's very nice to be in position since I get to see what they all do, and obviously I'm gonna go for some value here, so I bet $35, and the small blind and the cutoff call, so we're still multi-way to a turn card. It's the 5 of spades, and once again, the small blind and the cutoff check it over to me. I'm not 100% sure what I was thinking. Once again, I'm recording this after the trip. I feel like I probably just checked for pot control, and because my hand is not super strong or anything, so I guess I didn't think to go for value here, but I think I could go either way, but I feel like a bet is just better here since it is a pretty wet board, and I do want to deny equity from hands that are drawing. The river card's the 8 of clubs. Definitely not the best card in the deck since flush draws get there, and if anyone had like 9-8, 8-7, something like that, they now have trips. Now I'm just hoping to get to showdown. The small blind checks, and this time the cutoff decides to lead out. He bets 90, which is just about half pot, and wasn't 100% sure what to do here, but I don't think he's going to be betting into 2 players without a hand better than mine. And the small blind still has to act behind me. Don't know if I can make the call here. I feel like I should have just bet the turn, and maybe I would have a clearer decision, but I decided to just fold here, and the small blind folds as well, so never really going to know if we're beat here, but yeah, let me know what you guys think of this hand. I don't think it was a super interesting spot or anything, but I do feel like I should have bet the turn. Seems like I'm playing the turn pretty passively in a lot of hands. I later get dealt king-queen suited and under the gun, and I open it up to $20. I get called by both the hijack and the big blind, so 3 ways to a flop, which is 10-7 jack with 2 diamonds. We've got 2 overs and an open-ended straight draw. All 3 of us are playing pretty deep. The big blind's playing about 1200 effective, and the hijack covers me, and I have about 2400 in my stack. Even though the flop favors the pre-flop caller's range, I think just given my hand, there's going to be a standard c-bet. But one thing I was thinking about at the time was that the hijack was actually from the must-move table. We were just playing there, and he very soon after came to the main game, just like I did. And he was the type to always bet into the field after the pre-flop raiser checks, and he would usually bet pretty small. So I feel like this is the type of player who just tries to steal the pot whenever people show weakness on the flop. So for that reason, once the big blind checks it over to me, I actually checked it to the hijack with the intention of check raising if and when he puts out a bet, since I was almost certain he would do so. He does actually put out a bet. He makes it $25 into a pot of 65, and doesn't necessarily mean he has nothing, but he has been doing this the entire session. The big blind ends up making the call here, which I sort of like since my raise is going to look stronger. So I raise it up to 110 here, and luckily both opponents fold, so I think given the exact situation, I like my play. Although normally I think a C bet would just be better, but I don't know how much of me noticing the hijack's tendency actually played a role in this hand, but it is good to notice your opponent's habits and potentially see if you can find some kind of counterplay to them. So I'd like to think that he was just stabbing at the pot all the other times, and that given that specific information, this was a play that was worth making. Alright guys, last hand for the session. I have ace-king offsuit in early position, and I make it $20. The low jack ends up making the call, and the hijack, who is the same player we were just talking about, 3 bets to 80 or 85, I actually don't remember. I put out a 4 bet here to 210, and once the low jack folds, the hijack ends up making the call. We're playing really deep once again. We're about 2,400 or so effective. I was already planning on leaving pretty soon, so part of me doesn't want to lose this hand, but we're just going to play it the best we can. We're going to a flop heads up, which comes queen 8 queen, rainbow. This is a pretty decent flop for us. Not super likely as a queen, and I think I can get him to fold, although I do have the best nothing at this point, but we do want to deny some equity, so I put out a small bet here, 175. I've been experimenting with betting smaller just in general. Sometimes I'll bet like a third pot on the flop or something like that. I remember I used to only bet like about half pot or like a little more or a little less. I think in spots like this where it's a 4-bet pot and the flop is pretty dry, betting small could be kind of annoying for my opponents since they sometimes just have to defend with nothing and float. So that's part of the reason why I like to bet small in spots like this. It puts your opponents in annoying spots, and then when you do have a hand, you can sometimes get value from hands you normally wouldn't have. In this case though, we're hoping for a fold, and luckily my opponent does make the fold here, so we take down a pretty nice sized pot to finish off the session. Once again, this specific hand isn't super interesting, but the thought process I just described is something that kind of comes up in later hands during the Vegas trip, so you'll probably see a few more hands just like that where I have the same kind of reasoning. There are also some spots that are kind of sort of similar where I should bet smaller, but then I didn't. But it might have been a better option. So stay tuned for the upcoming Vegas vlogs from the same trip, and you'll probably notice a lot of situations that are pretty similar to this.
Are we vlogging this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a DogeBag. You know, like Dogecoin? Yeah, DogeBag.
At one point in the session, someone asked if I was vlogging, and usually this ends up leading to people asking questions about the poker vlog, since people usually find it pretty interesting. So we had a lot of friendly conversation at the table shortly before my session ended. Everyone at the table was really chill, so shout out to everyone who I was playing with that day, and it was good playing with you guys.
So what did you actually put out?
I meant to put 165, but
Okay.
I didn't even realize I put 195 until you said something. I was like, what do you mean 195?
That happens to me too. Open-ended or what? Right?
No, I had a gut shot.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Hey, you got the folds. Nice.
Yeah.
I was initially in for $1,500 and ended up cashing out for just over $2,700 to book a solid profit of about $1,200. Thank you. Good luck, guys.
How long does it take you to edit like a 15-minute video?
15 minutes? Yeah, probably like 4 or 5 hours, something like that. Hi. Thank you. Alright guys, I just finished the session at South Point. I was in for $1,500 and cashed out for just a little over $2,700. So really good session. I ran super hot in the beginning. Later on I was card dead for quite a while and then just picked up a few hands, lost some, and then won a couple big ones at the end to net a pretty good profit. So really good session. I did not expect South Point to be such a nice property. I always imagined it as kind of just this like side area on the outskirts of Vegas, but the poker room itself was super busy, which I didn't really expect, and it was still busy even after I left. So alright guys, I've been waiting to eat for really long now, so I'm pretty hungry. If you guys are longtime vlog viewers and watch the previous Vegas vlogs, then you know there's one place I always have to go to when I'm in Vegas, and that is Nacho Daddy. Alright guys, slightly unfortunate news. I used to always park at the Miracle Mile shops near Planet Hollywood because it was free and it's kind of in a good area in the center of all the strip, but unfortunately now it's not free parking. So if you guys have any known parking areas in Vegas that are free, then let me know.
gotta get it off my chest. I don't know how anyone could ever live a life behind a desk. And I don't go to church no more, but I've been feeling blessed. Cause my taxi busy driving while I'm busy getting high on money. And it's kind of funny how the ones who did it right still kinda hate.
Alright guys, this is my Airbnb. It's nothing much, but it was the cheapest one I could find.
I don't wanna be like you, I wanna sing my songs. Keep it going all night long. I don't wanna stop.
Alright guys, this is the Airbnb. We got a little kitchen right here, even though I'm probably never gonna cook ever while I'm in Vegas. We got the living area right here. And then this is where the magic will not be happening. One awesome thing about this Airbnb location is that it's actually right next to the Modern Vegan, which I go to all the time when I'm in Vegas. And when I say next to it, I mean like it is right there. Like I'm right outside of where the Modern Vegan is. So probably we'll be going there for breakfast / brunch tomorrow. Pretty good session today, no complaints, and everything just kind of went pretty well. And I got some good food from Nacho Daddy after like 4 years of not having gone to Vegas. So. Alright guys, that's it for day 1 of the poker trip. Hope you guys enjoyed the vlog. The session went pretty much as perfectly as I could have wanted it to go. Can't really complain, and hopefully day 2 goes just as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.